Hi everyone, Clara is glad to see you again. Welcome to Difference Frames the World, a permanently demonetized alternative voice to mainstream media. Viewers can subscribe to our channels on Telegram, Rumble, Locals and Odyssey, which will host every video we have made, including some sensitive ones that we are not allowed to post here. Today, we continue to summarize the Chinese ambassador to the US, Qin Gang's answers to mainstream media on August 16, 2022. We published 4 episodes of the series, and here comes part 5. As in previous episodes, we will first regurgitate the questions and answers between Qin Gang and American journalists, and then express our opinions. Evan Osnos, with The New Yorker, asked the ambassador about the timeline of the Taiwan issue. President Xi Jinping has said this is not an issue China should pass from generation to generation. I'd like to know if the events of the last year or two and the conditions in the US-China relationship, or more broadly, in the world, have accelerated that timeline in any way. There was a report recently that some in the US assessed that it may have accelerated China's timeline for reunification. I'm curious if that's the fact. Qin Gang answered, I don't know if there is any specific time, but I do know there is a will. There's a prospect for peaceful reunification, and there is a will of more than 1.4 billion Chinese people for reunification. As we said in the just published white paper on the question of Taiwan, the question of Taiwan was caused when China was weak and chaotic, and we will solve it in the course of national rejuvenation. There is a prospect. However, I don't know if there is a timeline. People are over-nervous about it. And there are lots of speculations on that, which I have found baseless. Evan Osnos pushed his way further. I have to follow up briefly on that. In the event of reunification, how does China anticipate the international reaction to unfold? Do you expect the international community to embrace or reject this development? And are you prepared to handle the consequences? He then clarified the consequences he meant with the ambassador, who had questioned him about them. If, for instance, the rest of the world isolates China, or international businesses respond by withdrawing there. Qin Gang was puzzled. Why should they want to isolate China? Josh Rogan answered Qin Gang's question on behalf of Evan Osnos, if you attack them. Qin Gang replied to both of them, there's no such a presumption. In the first place, Taiwan is a part of China. The question of Taiwan is a purely internal affair of China, which brooks no foreign intervention. Secondly, as I mentioned, we will diligently pay the utmost effort to achieve peaceful reunification. We will use non-peaceful means only under the circumstances that Taiwan declares independence by a handful of separatist forces and the intervention of foreign forces. Whatever happens, this is purely an internal affair. You mentioned the international community. Let me say this. Based on the One China principle, 181 countries have diplomatic relations with China mainland. The overwhelming majority of the international community is supportive and accepts the One China policy. On Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan, more than 170 countries and international organizations have voiced support for the One China principle. They account for 80% of the global population. China has followed international law and basic norms governing international relations. Why do countries criticize or isolate China because of its internal affair? So I didn't find any legal or practical basis for that. Michael Martina with Reuters followed up on the notion of the U.S. transits of the Taiwan Strait. We expect the U.S. to continue selling weapons to Taiwan shortly. You said China would respond to that, as in the past years of actions. But after Pelosi's visit, we expect China to take a more assertive and aggressive response to these actions than in previous years. Qin Gang stated that in the past years, the United States had sold many weapons to Taiwan, which violated the commitments in the 3 joint communiques, particularly the joint communique of August 17, 1982, signed between the two countries precisely 40 years ago. We need to read some history. Some say people now have no interest in history or law. And that's how we are in this. Let me read the sentences in the August 17 joint communique. The United States government states that it does not seek to carry out a long-term policy of arms sales to Taiwan, that its arms sales to Taiwan will not exceed either in qualitative or in quantitative terms, the level of those supplied in recent years since the establishment of diplomatic relations between the United States and China, and that it intends gradually to reduce its sale of arms to Taiwan, leading, over some time, to a final resolution. Has the U.S. resolved this over the past 40 years? No. We haven't seen the United States honor its commitments. They are still going on, the arms sales. The quantities are more and the qualities are more sophisticated. It is written in black and white in the international document. The United States government has reneged on this commitment. So, of course, we strongly oppose arms sales from the United States. This is the move to change the status quo. This is the move to create tensions. And this is the move obstructing our efforts to achieve peaceful reunification. David Lawler from Axios started another topic about One China, Two Systems to solve the Taiwan issue. You said the overwhelming will of the Chinese people is for reunification. I would like to know if you are aware of the overwhelming will of people in Taiwan based on the many polls in elections. I know you said that you want to change that, but at present is not to be unified by China. Qin Gang emphasized, no matter how different the political systems are between the mainland and Taiwan, the historical fact that both sides belong to one and same China remains unchanged, and will never change. And the fact that people on both sides of the Taiwan Strait are Chinese remains unchanged, and will never change. We share the same root, cultural heritage, and national identity. We fully understand Taiwan has been separated from our motherland for decades. We fully understand the different political and social systems. We fully understand the sentiments of Chinese people in Taiwan. So that's why we have designed the policy of one country, two systems. That is to accommodate the differences, realities and people's sentiments, and it is a democracy, also a great invention in the world. Can you imagine any place in the United States with a different political and social system? Although I understand the federal and local differences, your overarching system is the same. We have shown great goodwill and tolerance in Taiwan to usher in peaceful reunification. The current political system can continue after reunification. Two systems is democracy. David Lawler raised his next question regarding the one country, two systems. Does it still exist in Hong Kong? After getting a yes from the Chinese ambassador, he continued, so, does Beijing decide what both systems are, or does Taiwan decide? For Hong Kong, obviously, Beijing is defining both systems. Qin Gang replied, the future solutions to the political systems, the Taiwan solution, will be negotiated by people of both sides. It's a democratic process. The interests and concerns of Taiwan will be fully considered and accommodated based on the principle of one China. When people talk about one country, two systems, please don't forget the foundation and precondition is one China. We cannot allow the foundation or precondition of one China to be denied by the two systems. If there's no one country, there will be no two systems. Many viewers think the Chinese ambassador is too polite and soft, and they do not believe Qin Gang used to be regarded as a wolf warrior when he served as the foreign affairs spokesman many years ago. Western media have changed their perception of him, no longer calling him a wolf. Qin Gang wanted to deliver a message to the West that if Taiwan declared independence, there would only be one country, one system. It is the last chance for the Taiwan authorities to decide whether they will accept the one country, two systems in the coming years or even months. In many videos, we have mentioned that Taiwan is not Ukraine. However, some Western politicians want to play the same trick in Taiwan as they did in Ukraine. In less than 20 days in August 2022, 3 batches of U.S. lawmakers and officials have visited Taiwan in a row. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Senator Markey, and the Governor of Indiana, Eric Holcomb, slapped Beijing's face consecutively by visiting the Chinese renegade province of Taiwan. They are forcing Beijing to take over Taiwan, so the US and its allies, like Germany and the UK, can strangulate China like they are sanctioning Russia. China mainland and the West both know that China needs time to be more robust militarily and economically, so it can deter any aggressors on its doorstep and avoid a new Eight Alliance invasion. Chinophobia drives US politicians crazy, and they want to drive Beijing crazier, So Chinese leaders would start a civil war with Taiwan at the wrong time, when the US can still summon some allies to fight China in the West Pacific. When Joe Biden won the 2020 election, we predicted there would only be a one-year ceasefire between China and the United States, meaning the relations between Beijing and Washington would deteriorate from 2022 onward. Unfortunately, our projection has come true. Still, it is not the worst case yet. When Republicans win the midterm election, Joe Biden will be even weaker, unable to stop the military-industrial complex from initiating a war in the West Pacific. Although the US government and military helped Nancy Pelosi visit Taiwan, they did not confront China during Beijing's military drills. USS Reagan, which most people believed would protect Taiwan, returned to its base in Japan. If Republicans prevail in Capitol Hill, and the US military no longer refrains itself from confronting the Chinese army, things will worsen. At the end of episode 5, we must thank supporters and patrons for their donations via GoFundMe, PayPal, Patreon, WeChat, and Buy Me a Coffee. Without their financial and spiritual support, we cannot keep DFTW alive so long after the platform demonetized our channel 8 months ago on the pretext of our videos providing no value to viewers.